Elizabeth. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Elizabeth. Nice to meet you too.
Okay, so you're an author, right? Tell us a bit about yourself.
I grew up in the north,
Mm-hmm.
in a small town called Ondobe.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised by my mom and mostly my mom's family because my mom had a house in her dad's field.
Mm-hmm.
I have one sibling,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a degree in microbiology. I graduated last month.
Mm-hmm.
And most of all, I wrote a book, Learning the Hard Way. It's based on my life lessons, basically from childhood to right now. I basically wrote everything that I learned throughout my life, my experiences, and just reflected on them and held myself accountable for my actions and basically just advised some people on ways to deal with certain things.
Okay, so tell us about the genre of a book, because what I'm getting from you, from what you're saying, it's kind of like a biography, right? So tell us just a bit about the genre and also just about the storyline of the book.
It's not necessarily a biography.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically I just mentioned some things.
Okay.
It's based on 33 lessons that I learned throughout my life. It's just me explaining something that I went through and what I learned from it. Most of the times when we perceive things, when we are going through things, we are blinded by the pain and by the things that we are going through. We don't necessarily sit down and reflect what's happening, what am I learning from this. So I went back to those stories and I just looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, this is what I got from this, and I had to write about it because it's amazing when you look back and you realize that some of these things that we go through are not necessarily just things we go through. They're supposed to be there. They build us and they make us who we are.
Okay, that's amazing. So, at what age did you start realizing that you can use storytelling as a platform to express yourself?
My mom is a writer, so in a way, I feel like I mimic her behavior most of the times.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was young, she published the first book in 2001. So in a way, from there, I would read. I liked reading, and I wrote my first book. It was in our local language when I was grade 9. I gave it to her and she was like, okay, this is not good enough, you have to do better. And from there, I have been reading certain kinds of books. I have been reading the same kind of books. Basically, my first book was Life Talk to a Daughter by Isabella Little Gates, and she she spoke to me in a way. When I was 16 years old, she spoke to me. I would read and I'm like, oh, okay, in these situations, and I can behave like this, I can deal with things like this. So from there, that's when I realized that I would like to write a book based on those things. I would like to write a book based on in that direction.
Okay, so your book was motivated or inspired rather by the books that you read when you were super young. So that's where the inspiration came from.
Yeah, mostly. I feel like most writers write based on what they read. Most of
Okay.
the things that you write are mostly the things that you read about. And in a way, I feel like I've been reading the same kind of books since I was young. So they are still the kind of books that I read. Then non-fiction books that teach me something, that help me with financial growth, that help me with personal growth. So those are the kind of books that I read, and somehow they influence the way I write.
Okay, so this is literally the first book you're publishing, right? So I'm guessing this is not the first body of work you're doing. So if like you've been training and writing different books, or how is it? Is this like the first, you're just like, I wrote this book and I was like, I want to publish this? Or was it like a variety of books that you're just like, okay, I wrote a variety of like a body of work and I'm just going to choose a specific book that I would like want to publish and whatnot? Tell us a bit about that.
Okay. Mostly it's that I had this idea. I had the idea of writing this book since I grade 12, those years. I had this idea. I would go through something. I'm like, okay, I'll write about this. And the first idea when I started writing is like because I started writing the book last year. When I started writing, I started in a way that more like retaliating, like things that happened to me, and I was writing it in a way that, okay, this happened to me, this is what I went through, like reporting. And then in the middle of chapter 1, I was like, okay, now what's the point of me writing about things that I went through and not necessarily talking about what they taught me? Because we all go through things in a way. It's life would be boring if so I was like, okay, let me just write this in a way that it works for someone, it helps someone out there.
Okay, that's amazing. So, who does this book specifically cater to? Well, we're talking about like age-wise now. It's not like, who do you think this book will relate to in some way?
Mostly young people, because I'm a young adult. I feel like most of my experiences are based on my life, and I'm just a young person. But in a way, I don't want to limit it to that. I feel like if an older person goes through my book and they get something, then that will be, because basically life lessons are just life lessons. My mistake or my experience could be based on something so young or based on a young perspective, but in a way, if an adult is going through almost the same thing, then they go through it, then they it's I would appreciate the young or old person going through it and getting something from it.
Okay, so this genre of book, you mostly sit with people that have gone through stages in their lives, and as you all know, you're super young, which is amazing. It's like I'm starstruck. Like, how can a 22-year-old write a book? But is this like a genre that you're gonna stick to, or are you like just experimenting with different genres and seeing what you're most comfortable in, what genre you're most comfortable in?
I feel like I don't like limiting myself. In a way, I feel like when you limit yourself to something, you don't really figure out what you're capable of. So I would like to write so many things. In a way, with age, with time, I'll be reading so many different things. So many things will catch my attention, and in a way, I'll probably write based on different things. So if I say I'm going to stick to this, then so I'll rather not limit myself and just be like, well, when something happens, if I get something and I would like to write about it, I will write about it.
That's amazing. So in this world where everyone is all about electrical devices and technology and whatnot, it's really hard to find people that will read a hardcover book. So how are you gonna use your platform to make people notice and be like, well, I may be releasing a hardcover book, but you're gonna read it because this is that thing about me. How are you gonna advertise yourself to a body of people?
In a way, I was thinking of using social media platforms. Basically, just getting, because you went through my book and you realize that there are some columns with quotes in it. So in a way, I was planning on using my friends and just them posting those quotes on their social media and just making sure that people get to know that there is something out there. You know, there is this book coming out. And maybe they'll want to read it and come to the launch. So, because I feel like the great way to get through to young people is through what they like, and that's social media.
Yeah, that's true. So I tend to I'm a bookworm myself, and I love to read. So most of the time, I see like when I read books, it's mostly they target a certain type of genre, but they don't really talk about the experience as you have. I've read your book; it's amazing. I'm like obsessed. I cannot wait to continue reading it. So, do you think writers or upcoming authors or people that do want to go into the career of writing, do you think people write based on the way they were raised and the way they grew up? Do you think that's where their storyline comes from?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I feel like you are what you read. You know, there's that people say that you are what you read. So if you want to be a writer, you should be reading things that you want to write about. In a way, I feel like even when I'm going to write my next thing, even when I'm going to write my next book, I would spend time researching and reading books by different authors on the same subject. So you just have a way of doing it. So your experiences might have something to do with it, but I feel like how you interpret it is mostly what matters. Because you grow up a certain way and you want to be something, you just be it. Yeah, you just have to work hard and do what you have to do to be what you want to be. So if you want to be a writer and you want to write about something, read books on that. Read books and just get people, young writers, they are writers in Namibia, you talk to them. Yeah.
So what keeps you motivated?
When it comes to writing or just in general?
Just when it comes to writing, like what gives you inspiration? Like writing, like for instance, if you want to like write a certain topic, about a certain topic, what motivates you to write about that in particular?
Okay, this time it was so easy because it's based, I'm just going back, I'm just thinking about things that went on, I'm thinking about the lessons, I'm like, okay, now let's talk about this. And I was going for honesty in a way. I was like, okay, let's talk about what went on. What do you remember? What do you remember about this situation? Write about it, talk about it. So I didn't really need much motivation because I was just going back. But most of all, if in other projects, when I'm doing something more, and I feel like for my upcoming projects, it's being comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's how you should do it. Because you can't, there are some points that I didn't want to write. But I still do it because you never really want to do something. People that wake up to exercise don't want to do it, but they still do it because they want results. So I came up with this tactic of just being comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to do it. If you want results, even when you don't want to do it, you should just do it. So I feel like that will keep motivating me in future. But this time I didn't really need much motivation because I was just recalling things that happened. And in a way, yeah.
That's amazing. So who are some of the authors you look up to?
I like Isabella Little Gates.
Okay.
She's the lady that just left up to her daughter, one of the first books that I read. And is it Paul Arden? And mostly the young Namibian authors. There's Albertina Nande. She's a young author. I haven't read her book yet, but in a way, I speak to her and she motivates me. And there is Daniel Luciano. He's publishing next year. I go to him sometimes and we just talk about these things, and yeah, I look up to them. I look up to the published authors and these Namibian young authors. They motivate me because I feel like they are doing something that they love doing and they are writing, and that motivates me. That I look up to it.
Okay, so how long does it take for you? How many hours in a day does it take for you to write a chapter?
Sometimes longer. When it comes to writing, it's a process. You'd write one sentence and you're like, okay, this is not good enough. Then you keep deleting that sentence for hours and hours and hours. And sometimes you have to go on the internet, you find, articles on the same thing, then you have a new perspective, then you have to go back and write again. So it depends from chapter to chapter. Sometimes I take hours, sometimes the whole day. So I keep deleting. Sometimes I just write the chapter and I'm like, okay, good, this is good.
Okay.
So yeah.
So last but definitely not least, what advice would you give to up and coming authors?
They should write and read.
Okay.
And I write with my friend all the time. I write something and I send it to her. I've been doing that for years, and I feel like it has helped me a lot. So I feel like they should read. You should look at other authors. You should check what they are saying. You should write and read. And at the same time, you shouldn't give up on your dreams. Because when I had this idea, I didn't even know who to publish with. Because there were most of the publishers in Namibia are academic ones. I didn't know where to publish my book, especially even last year when I started writing. I didn't know where to publish my book, but I still wrote. So in a way, I feel like don't let fear also stop you from doing what you love doing. So just write and figure it out when you're done.
That's amazing. It was so nice talking to you, Maria Kangala, and I wish you so much luck on your future endeavors. I know that you're going to become a success, and I'm so happy that I get to be a part of it.
Okay, thank you so much. Nice meeting you.
Thank you.